Their War, Her Victory, American Women in World War II.
Presented by Becca Bush, Charlotte Clifford, Lily Moore, Braley Rockwell, and Isabella Shank. The year is 1939, and American women have just been introduced to the battlefield of World War II.
Since men have been drafted to fight, women have taken on more responsibilities, both at home and in the war.
Today, we will talk about how women contributed to the war by answering this question.
To what extent did the new responsibilities taken on by women during World War II lead to changes in their rights?
The new responsibilities taken on by American women in World War II caused major changes in their rights. For example, some of their new responsibilities included jobs, like in the Air Force, shipyard, and even in combat.
During World War II, women showed they were just as capable of working men's jobs as men. After the war in 1963, as the push for women in the job force continued, wage disparity was eliminated and women got the right of equal payment.
Before we start talking about these incredible women, we should give you a brief overview about World War II itself.
World War II was one of the deadliest and detrimental wars in history. It had started in Europe due to Adolf Hitler's invasion of Poland.
More than 30 countries joined in, including the United States.
The war ended 6 years later, resulting in a victory for the United States and the other Allied countries.
Women spies in World War II. The demand for labor opened up opportunities for women during the war. The U.S. military established separate branches for women.
In 1942, the U.S. established the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS. It was known as the first American intelligence agency. Its purpose was to gather information and engage in espionage.
The hawk flies at dawn. The owl waits in silence. Thank you, 826.
One of these women was named Amy Thorpe.
Amy Elizabeth Thorpe was also known as Betty Pack, Betty Thorpe, Elizabeth Pack, and Amy Bruce. Her code name was Cynthia.
In 1910, she was born in Minneapolis to a senator and Marine Corps officer. Her birth name was Amy Elizabeth Thorpe.
In 1923, her family relocated to Washington, D.C.
Once pregnant at 19, she married British operative Arthur Pack.
Her job was to corrupt high-level foreign politicians, persuading them into giving her classified information.
She successfully gained limited intelligence on the German Enigma machines and the Black Chamber in Poland, obtained the cipher books of Fascist Italy, and stole the Vichy French naval codes within an embassy.
Women soldiers.
Some women wanted to do more than just sit around and wait for the message that their husbands or sons were dead. They wanted to be involved. Women were not actually permitted to fight in war on the front lines until 2013, when it was announced that the Department of Defense would denounce the Ground Combat Exclusion Policy, a law that stopped women from fighting in direct combat roles.
Jobs that female soldiers took on were mainly truck drivers, electricians, and more. These women were still in danger as military bases could be attacked and women could be forced to fight, though not permitted. Another group worth mentioning was the 688. The 688 was the largest unit of African American women to serve in the war. Women of all races were now able to contribute to the fight in World War II. Although WWII allowed black women to enlist, they received segregation, racism, and unfair treatment even in their own troop. They worked tirelessly in below freezing temperatures every hour of every day for 3 months to make sure that American soldiers stayed linked with their loved ones and their morale stayed high. However, when they returned, they received no celebration. Despite their lack of recognition, they cleared another 3-year blockage in France. All their hard work took decades to even spark publicity, proving their motto true: no male, low morale.
More than 350,000 women entered the United States Armed Forces. In 1942, Congress established several women's military units: the Women's Army Auxiliary Corps, which was later renamed the Women's Army Corps, or WAC, the Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service, the WAVES, part of the United States Navy, and the Marine Corps Women's Reserve.
Additionally, in 1943, women aviators began serving with the Women's Air Force Service pilots, otherwise known as WASP. Women in uniform took on more than 200 different jobs during their time in the military.
Some included clerks, mechanics, pilots, drivers, gunnery instructors, air traffic controllers, weather forecasters, postal workers, and translators. Their service helped shape the future of women in the military, laying a strong foundation for greater inclusion and recognition. Female nurses.
Women made a big sacrifice as they gave their time to medical services in the war. As members of the Army Nurse Corps, Cadet Nurse Corps, and Navy Nurse Corps, they cared for patients all over.
From the Pacific to the home front, their mission was not one in vain. Once the United States fully committed to the war, they needed all their assets, including men and women. They gave their time, energy, and many even gave their lives.
About 60,000 women worked in the Army Nurse Corps. An estimate of 3 million women volunteered for the Red Cross. This goes to show how much the female population cared for America, even when their treatment was unfair.
Women were lifesavers.
But lifesaver doesn't even begin to describe what they did for their country.
I've been shot! You're wounded! His heart rate's dropping. Please. We need backup.
We need to save this man before he dies in front of us.
Please, God, save my husband. It's done. He'll live. It's a miracle. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
As you've probably noticed by now, women significantly contributed to the war. But it wasn't just women on the battlefield who made an impact.
Women took over a lot of man-owned businesses when the war started. Their husbands, sons, and brothers left to fight while women worked hard at home. Once the men had gone, women became efficient in cooking and housekeeping.
I got drafted. What? No! Please, promise me you'll stay safe. I'll try my best. No, that isn't good enough. I'm sorry. Please. Don't leave me. George!
While the men were fighting, women worked in war-related organizations and defense plants as volunteers, while also managing their homes.
Goods, including toys, cars, and refrigerators, disappeared from markets, along with scarce amount of doctors and nurses. Across the country, food was rationed and even grown by the people to support the war efforts.
Rosie the Riveter was a famous female icon during World War II.
She represented the women on the home front.
Although she was a powerful symbol during World War II, she is still a well-known person to this day. Yes, women were taken on more seriously because of their war efforts.
But they lost their jobs to men after the war, causing them to be deprived of their newly gained rights.
While some women returned to their pre-war careers, many did not.
They got pushed out of their military jobs as the returning men resumed their careers and positions.
Women who worked in medical areas during World War II also got dismissed.
But, in addition to that, women gained rights from their contributions.
For example, manufacturing jobs opened up to women and they earned more power.
Their wartime efforts lay the foundation for the women's suffrage.
And helped women in the future gain rights.
During the war, the number of women in the U.S. workforce rose by 50%, or 6 million people. Their roles varied dramatically from a worker in a defense plant to a soldier on the front lines.
In conclusion, women have affected our country in ways that can only be said with admiration. The lives that were saved and the sacrifices that were made because of these strong and smart female soldiers, pilots, engineers, nurses, spies, and women at home greatly benefited America. They donated so much in a time of sorrow and chaos.
And although some women lost their jobs after the war, their donations continue to help them in the future.